The other day, and I mean like Thursday, I was heading to a meeting. I had 125 miles in my tank, and I was like, it's 60 miles. I'll make it there. I'll fill up on my way back. When I got out of that meeting, I did not want to stop for gas. So I just waited till tomorrow. And then I was heading to another meeting and I had 2 miles in my tank. I was not getting there. I ended up missing that meeting. I realized that I do that with my mental health a lot as well. I kind of keep pushing and pushing it off. I'll do this for myself tomorrow. I'll take a break tomorrow. I'll take that vacation next week. Next weekend, I'll take some time off. And then I wouldn't do it. And I waited till I hit that point of burnout where I had no energy. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus. I didn't know what to do or how to get through it. And everything just became too much. And I would miss a day of work. I'd miss a couple of deadlines. And I thought, well, this is just how it's going to be. Then I thought back to about 6 years ago. I was 20 years old and going through college, people told me that you have to just keep going and do as much as you can to be successful. Don't take a break. Don't let other people get ahead. That's what I did, graduated in 2.5 years, but never took time to care for myself, found myself in a psych ward and thought, this is what I was promised, that life was going to get better once I graduated, once I started working. But it turned out that without taking care of myself, without self-care, it was never going to get better. I was just going to keep pushing and pushing until there was no tomorrow. So if you haven't scanned the QR code, go ahead and do it. And if you're in this session and you're thinking, I don't have time for self-care, raise your hand. I think that all the time, that there's no time. When am I going to make time for myself? I have a million things to do and not a lot of people to help with all those responsibilities. Go back. So sorry.
You're too quick to the draw.
Is it working? Are we good? So self-care is about doing things for yourself, with others, to build that healthy relationship with yourself, with others, and feel balanced in those different aspects of your life. It's so that you can show up at work, show up with your friends, show up with your family, show up in all the ways you need to. And it gives you a chance to just be there for yourself and smile and enjoy life. So 3 categories of self-care that I'm going to talk about today is emotional, physical, and social. Emotional is your brain. It's how you're feeling. Anyone here feeling overwhelmed some days? Frustrated, stressed, too much to do, not enough time? Sounds like me. Physical, body. How strong do we feel? Do we feel like we have the energy to get through the day? Sometimes feel like there's just no energy left to keep going. And then social. It's how we connect with others. That's the time we make to feel like we belong, to feel like we're important and valued, and like we have people around us. So these categories of self-care come from our unmet needs. So we're going to break each of them down. Emotional needs. These are the questions you can ask yourself when it comes to figuring out if you have any unmet needs, because unmet needs are where self-care begins. So you have notepads in front of you. Take some time to answer these questions. Question 1. How are you feeling emotionally right now? What would you use to describe how you're feeling? If you don't have the word for it, you can draw a sad face, a happy face, an angry face. Something to describe how you're feeling. Something you've struggled with lately. For me, a lot of times it's feeling overwhelmed because I try to put too much on my plate. I don't like to ask people for help. And it's this constant cycle of feeling overwhelmed. Next, how do you express and process your emotions? Maybe you talk to someone, maybe you write them down, maybe you utilize some art or music. For me, I personally love to talk, so I will call up anyone who will listen and tell them everything that I feel and what I'm going through. I also love music. I love Taylor Swift. There's a Taylor Swift song for every emotion, so I'll put on some Taylor Swift to express how I'm feeling. So how do you express and process your emotions? And then question 3. When you are struggling, how do you cope with these feelings? What do you use to manage those overwhelming emotions? For me, I like to walk it out. It helps kind of move some of that energy out. I like to color and just keep my hands busy in a mindless way. But I color words of affirmation, so I'm kind of forcing myself to think positive. Doing small things to help me manage the emotions. Are we ready to move on to the next category? All right, physical needs. So this again is about your body and feeling strong enough to get through the day. So how are you feeling physically right now? Take a minute and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. Does your jaw feel clenched? Are your fists clenched? Are your toes clenched? Are your shoulders high? Open your eyes. Do you notice anything in your body that's telling you a bit about how you feel? Maybe your stomach's a little anxious. Maybe your head hurts. How are you feeling physically right now? Question 2. Are you eating enough for your body? Are you getting enough nutrients? How do you feel after you eat? Personally, I love chocolate cake. It's my favorite thing to eat. Have an excuse for it every single day. But I noticed when I was eating that and skipping my other meals to make up for the calories, I was feeling really tired and weak and didn't really have the energy to get through. I learned that chocolate cake's fun, but also adding in some vegetables, some protein, things that made my body feel good. I actually went to the doctor, had them do my blood work to see what vitamins I was missing. How are you fueling your body? Next, how are you releasing energy? How are you moving your body? I love long walks. My friends love to run. I like to run my mouth, not my body. So walking is the way I really get my energy out. And I took up yoga last week. It's going good so far. It's been 3 days. And lastly, what is your sleep schedule like? How many hours of sleep are you getting? I'm lucky if I get 5 hours of sleep. Yeah, I'm a little busy. But that's the problem. I don't make time to sleep because I think if I stay up late getting work done and then I get up early getting work done, then I'll be productive. But I end up crashing eventually. It happens constantly. And this is my unmet need, is that sleep schedule. So how much rest are you getting? Are you giving your body and your brain enough time for rest? Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's my goal too, and that's why I started yoga. People saying it helps you relax, helps you get some sleep. Oh,
In the wellness room.
oh, perfect. I'll be sure to head over there next if anyone wants to come with me. But now let's move on to social needs. So this is about feeling connected with others, finding that sense of belonging. So how are you building connection with others? What are some ways you connect with others? Social media is a big one, right? We scroll online, like people's posts, maybe comment. Maybe we talk to our coworkers at work. Maybe we walk by someone and say hi. We say, hi, how are you? And keep walking. It's a big one. So what are the ways you're connecting with others? Are you making the time to answer that question, how are you? And listen to them answer, how are you? How are you building those connections? For me, I like to make a point every week, once a week, to do a happy hour or a boxing class with one of my friends. Either we're angry and we're punching something, or we're happy and we're talking about it. But finding that way to build connections. And then how are you feeling in your various relationships? Do you feel loved and supported by your loved ones? For me, for a long time, I felt very isolated in my relationships. I felt like I couldn't call people to show up for me when I needed them, but I wanted to be there for them all the time. And I realized that one, took a lot of communication, and two, finding the right people. So, how are you feeling in various relationships? And then number three, do you feel a sense of belonging and community, or do you feel isolated? Do you have a place where you feel like you belong? For me, that looks like going out with my friends once a month and doing something together. Sometimes we go painting, sometimes we'll have a picnic. Friday is my birthday, so we're having a huge picnic. Thank you. Excited. But finding people who make you feel important, who make you feel like you belong, is a great way to meet that need of feeling valued, feeling like you deserve to be here. And it gives you the energy to keep going and find that sense of purpose in tomorrow. So now that we talked about meeting those needs, have you been able to identify a place where you have an unmet need? How many people identified emotional? Raise your hand. How many people identified physical? And how many people identified social? We all have these unmet needs, and our unmet needs might not be the same as someone else's. And even if they are the same, we might need different practices to help us. So one, you identify your need, then you target a specific need. So we said emotional, physical, social. But what does that actually mean? For me, physical meant rest. It meant getting sleep, giving myself time to rejuvenate. So think about that specific need, a specific goal that you have. Take a moment and reflect on that. What is a goal you can take from your unmet need? Write it down. It's going to be super important later. So by having that need, having that specific need, that goal, then you can begin to choose a self-care practice. Because self-care is not just doing a face mask. Maybe it's doing a face mask with the intention of resting, of doing affirmations, mindfulness, right? Self-care is not a practice, it's the intention behind the practice. So what can we do for ourselves that aligns with ourselves and our needs to actually show up for ourselves? It's all about that intention. I was very surprised to learn that back in 2020 on TikTok. I thought self-care was skincare and moisturizer. When I spent a couple $100s on moisturizer and my depression did not go away, I learned that it was all about the intention. It was not about just a specific act. It was what was I doing behind that act. So choosing practice is an example. So as I said, I want to prioritize my physical needs. And for me, that means more rest. My goal is to sleep 6 to 8 hours per night, at least 3 nights per week. So thinking of your need, do you have your specific need, your specific goal? And from that, choose a self-care practice. So for me, that looks like deep breathing when I feel overwhelmed. I feel very overwhelmed sometimes and I let it build up. And then at night, I'm thinking about it all night. And then I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm convinced I need to get something done right then and there. Can't go back to bed. So deep breathing when I feel overwhelmed so I can actually be productive in that moment instead of at 2 a.m. panicking. I can exercise after dinner to release energy, get rid of those ruminating thoughts. like I said, I get very overwhelmed. It all builds up. But going for that walk and listening to Taylor Swift for me helps get a little bit of that out so that I can actually shut off my brain for a little bit. And then lastly, something I learned recently is I don't have to be accessible 24/7. I was answering emails at 1 a.m., at 4 a.m., thinking if someone sent an email, my phone went off, I had to answer right then and there. But then I learned I could just put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and they have on screen time now. You can actually shut down apps between certain hours. No one can contact, 3 people can contact me after the hours of 10 p.m. My grandmother, my mom, and my dad. Anyone else can wait until 7 a.m. the next morning. I'll get back to people when I have the energy to get back to people. So I'm not sacrificing my sleep, my rest. Learning, working on it. And finally, hopefully one day I'll go to 8 hours of sleep. But I found my need. I found a specific goal within that need. And then I chose self-care practices that work for that. Does everyone have a few self-care practices? Awesome. So again, your specific needs, your goals, and constraints. Because a lot of times we want to come up with these self-care routines and we come up with 10 tasks that we're going to do and we don't account for time. We don't account for the financial aspect. And then we're like, well, self-care doesn't work because I tried for a week and I couldn't do it. It's a big thing we're realizing with self-care. So it's being realistic. It's looking at what you can reasonably and realistically add into your schedule. So now's the fun part.